stress has a lot to do with pain, as we both know. So even if we get rid of the physical issues and address those with that client, awareness is job number one. So we can go there. And if you want your staff and yourself to be productive, the first thing that you need to do in a wellness program is have improved communication. But I would start by saying, have a communication channel open with your employees. But I think that kind of tone and mindset shift will do wonders for their stress level. So communication is probably the root of all stress on the planet, the lack thereof. So if you want to do corporate wellness, wellness starts with communication because unaddressed friction causes more friction. If you want stress and burnout to be non-existent or limited, let's just say, put it down a notch. Let's get realistic here. And just say, take it down a notch so that productivity isn't jeopardized. So when we talk about fitness and wellness, we dial this down back into human interaction because that's where it all starts.
Hello, and welcome to Kathie's Coaching Podcast, also known as Top Workplace Wellness Podcast. And I want to shout out this fact. This video was recorded before I resigned from my corporate job in the toxic workplace culture. And so you're going to see the difference in me now with my energy and how I'm presenting myself because I had been put inside a box. And very soon I'm going to be recording an episode on that. I just want you to know this before we get into this episode because my energy has totally shifted. As my mentor says and my coaches tell me, had my flow restricted. My flow has been unrestricted and I'm in flow now. I'm in a much better place. So if you pick up on that negative energy, I apologize. And don't worry, Dr. Hema will be back on the podcast again very soon. All right, let's get into the introduction of this wonderful person. And links to her can be found in the show notes and description below. Yeah, you want to check it out. And today I have a special guest, my friend Hema from Get Shanti Wellness. And Hema is a specialist in helping C-suite women over 50 get rid of neck pain. And what does that have to do with corporate wellness? Well, she's actually one of my resources inside my training programs. What she teaches and coaches is helping C-suite women get over their neck pain, which is caused by stress most likely. And one thing you want to know about Dr. Hema is she is a PhD in aerospace engineering. What does that have to do with fitness and wellness? Well, let's get into the episode and find out. See you inside.
Thank you for being here today. And I want to jump right into it and ask you a really pertinent question about your CEOs, your C-suite women. So women over 50, especially the executives that we're talking about, or people in corporate, they experience chronic pain due to the demands of their high-level roles and often the sedentary nature of their work. So how do you approach helping them overcome pain? Question number one.
Yeah, well, such an important question because I can tell you from my statistics and my background working with that category, that demographic of people, that it's almost 9 out of 10. It's very rare to not see a C-suite women over 50 without some pain issues. I mean, you get there, let's face it, you get there because you've done the work. And in order to do the work, you have to sacrifice something for something else. We all know that balance equation in life, like you don't get something for nothing. So they got there by sacrificing a bunch of things. Normally, that sacrificial lamb ends up being themselves. They get there because they ignore some triggers, some notifications of things not going 100%. They'll just, pop an Advil and then just go on their merry way, serve their world. Of course, women are servers. We love to serve our world. We love it when another person can be made happy through our efforts. That's just what makes us go. And that's just how women rule the world. And so in doing that, they sometimes, take shortcuts on themselves. suddenly they arrive with something they can't ignore. And that's when I get into the loop, either through their doctor referral, they end up with a proven methodology that will get their pain out. Never undervalue the care providers in the world, the professionals, the RMT, the chiros, the physios. There's no substitution. But what we all like to say as trainers is that we can help you get to the pain-free zone faster by go and see the professional, get that diagnosis, follow their things, but they're not going to be with you 24/7 in your mind. There you see them and you make an appointment and so on. Whereas we can be your accountability partner during that pain-free voyage, and you will get there. That's the other part of that puzzle, is that you have pain and you end up in a professional's office, but people see us when they finish that loop. They're out, they're pain-free, but you don't want it to come back. Stress has a lot to do with pain, as we both know. So even if we get rid of the physical issues and address those with that client, we may see a recurrence from stress-prompted pain. So the short answer, for that question is basically I lead them through that kind of a pain-free journey so that they can understand where their pain came from first. And there's a lot of confusion, as we know, in the outside world from just in TMI on the internet. Incorrect information, I must add. Let's get to your solution faster and then be on your merry way to do all the wonderful things you were meant to do.
That's right, right. I agree with that. I like how you say, listen to your doctor, but then come to you. You're also being proactive in the treatment. And that leads me to my next question that's part of this. And what role do you think corporate wellness programs can play in preventing or alleviating these issues for women in executive positions? And actually, I'd like to touch a little bit on sitting so much, because sitting has become the new smoking, they say. And I want to touch a little bit on that.
Yeah, for sure. No, you hit the nail on the head, because corporate wellness is non-negotiable. If you don't have a corporate wellness strategy, however small it may be, it could be a 3-line internet prompt that you send all your employees. If you've got an employee of one even, you and your employee can have this prompt that comes up on their computer and says, have you gotten up from your sitting position in the last hour? If not, it could prompt to a video where you can do a small stretch. Now, people who go have a tendency not to stop going, which we know all too well with this kind of a demographic. So they would be glued to that, let's just get her done mentality. I mean, we've got to embrace the fact that that's how they got there. How do you get into C-suite? So you got there by the get or go mentality, do it or die mentality, all good. Unfortunately, you got mixed into the wash with that. You came out the other end of the war zone, and here you are. So nothing is irreparable. Everything is repairable. Awareness is job number 1. So we can go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me go into question number 2, and that's physical pain often goes hand in hand with stress and mental burnout, especially for our executives. And how do you address both the physical and the mental aspects of our well-being in your training programs?
This is such an amazing point of attacking the whole wellness strategy, the whole business about stress and burnout. Now, I just want to backtrack a little bit just to get everyone on the same page on what is burnout. Like, the term is tossed around for the past 5-10 years. I've known specialists in burnout. Now that's a new thing that, not just a personal trainer, but a burnout specialist. So let's just backtrack, because we're all familiar with the idea of stress. Stress is when you feel you are not pretend you're in a race and the thing you want is just like 2 steps ahead of you. That's called stress. When the thing you want is just in reach, but just ahead of you, it creates this delta of difference of you being happy with what you've got to what you want. When there's always that disconnect, that creates stress. And so there's zillions, you can say, of apps and stress programs. I'm not going to go there because we are way too familiar with how to bridge that gap and make yourself down. But the other flip side of what you mentioned in terminology is burnout. So I want to address, what does that mean? So burnout is when that goes on too long. So let's put the example of life that you're living be like chasing that object, that person who is about two steps, like so close, but you're always behind with that. That's the cause of stress. If that goes on too long, a few more laps, how are you going to feel? Well, we all know how we're going to feel, almost to the point of a deflated personality. And then you start battling with yourself. Am I ever going to catch up and get to that zero? Or is it always going to be this game of catch up? And then the mind starts to try and wrap itself around that negative that you've got, that you're always going to have that decrement. And always in a decrement state is what causes burnout. So the first of that is that you and the top-down C-suite wellness program aficionado, a champion, if you want your staff and yourself to be productive, the first thing that you would need to do in a wellness program is have improved communication.
Love that. That is so important.
Right? Because stress and burnout are two branches of a tree. It's not the root.
You're
Right.
speaking it, girl.
So the trunk of the tree is where you need to go to the root. If the branches are rotten, you don't just take up the branch because you're going to have another rotten branch. So if you want stress and burnout to be non-existent or limited, let's just say, put it down a notch. Let's get realistic here. And just say, take it down a notch so that productivity isn't jeopardized. Because why are we even having this conversation, Kathie? We're having this conversation because companies want to be productive. Hey, you wouldn't be in the C-suite if you couldn't make your company profitable and productive. You and I wouldn't be sitting here if we couldn't make our businesses profitable and productive. We would not be interested. So interest and all the energy that women put into the C-suite comes from you wanting to make some rubber hit the road here. You want to change the world with your widget, your product, your service. So if you want to do that, you got to address the elephant in the room. And that's it. Your staff is totally stressed. Like that's just the definition of the game. But how do you make that into not inhibiting your bottom line and not having absenteeism or chronic pain while on the job? And then, so go address that communication tree root. How do you do that? Well, that could be a whole Nobel Prize winning program in itself, because that is the fundamental thing. But I would start by saying, have a communication channel open with your employees. Even if it's an employee of one, if it's your president and you're the CEO and that's all you got, have a weekly lunch, have a weekly coffee, have weekly meetings, have a daily on the daily. What are you thinking? What are you doing? How is your thinking? How is your strategy? Are you stressed? Maybe I can't do anything about it because we're on this time deadline or something and we got to get this done or we won't be in the game. Totally fine. But acknowledging that, like your checkbox, takes away half of it. If you walk onto the floor, if that's where your employees are, they're online Zooming, get on a Zoom call and just say, I feel your pain, guys. I may not be able to do anything at the moment. Got a lot of, deadlines to meet. We're in the A game. You guys are my A team. I'm here in the trenches with you. I walked the talk. Tell me what you got. Like you got something that's not letting you get to your deadline Friday. I want to know Monday or Tuesday because I can help you. And even if you can't, just saying that, everyone's now less stressed because they know you're in it with them. But I think that kind of tone and mindset shift will do wonders for their stress levels. So communication is probably the root of all stress on the planet, the lack thereof. So, you can drill this down into like parents with their children, employees with their supervising people, with their colleagues, even in the workplace. So if you want to do corporate wellness starts with communication. So if you sense there's friction on the floor of your working parts that are making this widget for your company, address it now at some level, even just acknowledging it, because unaddressed friction causes more friction. So just say, look, I know you're not getting along with your on this project, but I need you guys to work together because we're the A team. We're going to do this. So I know you, I acknowledge you, I see you, I hear you. Even that itself, they're going to go, oh, okay, well, at least I'm not cakewalking here to Friday. I'm not, dancing in the clouds. This is hard because this guy and I, don't do the same dance. So that's a thing. So when we talk about fitness and wellness, we dial this down back into human interaction because that's where it all starts.
Oh my goodness, you were like telling it, girl, just telling it. And I love it because this is something I see, especially in corporate America. It it is a cancer inside of
Yeah.
corporate, and it's something that is near and dear to my heart because I feel like the little guy doesn't feel heard because he's
Yeah.
just commanded at, and it
Yeah.
causes a lot of stress, a lot of
Yeah.
friction.
Well, people come to the table also with we've got to acknowledge and respect. Respect is, sine qua non here. Level zero of everyone. Respect another human being for they're coming to the table with a whole different ball game. They're coming to the table with
Yeah.
their stuff. You're coming to the table with your stuff. And we're all coming to the table with all our previous baggages. And not everybody's as well adjusted as fitness trainers who usually walk the talk and do some self analysis. And because we're treating people, so we got to walk our own talk. So we figure out what's with us. We're a work in progress too. No one's perfect on the planet, but at least we're aware that people come to the table with stuff, with baggage. And so you've got to respect that people come with baggage. And so their point of view is not going to be the same as yours. Never. Hardly ever. What is our goal is, I think, what people have to keep in mind. And the CEO, the C-suite woman in over 50, in her job is going to be, guys, you came with different stuff, but you guys are good at doing what I need you to do. I see you, I hear you, you talk to me. I understand the friction, I understand, but you're talented or you wouldn't be doing your job. So just giving them that feedback of saying, okay, yeah, she hears me, she sees me. This is going to be friction, but we're going to park it. Why? For the finishing up this project because we're talented in what she needs us to do. And then you all win. It's win, win, win.
Yes, yes. And that's ideal. That's so ideal. So, for my audience, I got to state this. This is so important because you can tell that Dr. Hema works with C suite executives because she is addressing your pain points that happen in your company. If you do not heed this advice, I can tell you from experience, what happens is your employees will start becoming absent from their job.
Mhm.
They will be telling you how to run your business.
Yeah.
But if you work with somebody like Dr. Hema, what happens is you understand these predicaments. And
Mhm.
she understands your pain points because you've got to get rid of your pain points at the same time. And I've been a personal trainer for a long time. So what happens when you work out with people, and obviously, Dr. Hema works out with C-suite executives over 50 because what she's talking about here is what happens as a personal trainer. We learn really good communication skills because we can analyze what's going on. We're almost like a freaking hairdresser
Oh,
because
yeah.
what happens is they get in the gym. They don't want to work out. They think they don't, but we trick them into it. And then they start telling us their stories, what's going on.
Yeah.
And when you pick up on, like Dr. Hema said, you pick up on what their stressors are, what their pain points are, what they're going through. And in fact, understanding bottom line that every person you interact with, they bring with them things to the table that we don't understand. It's like that quote that says, we all are having problems. Treat everybody with respect because you don't know what they're going through.
Right.
But when you're a personal trainer, you find out, sometimes I find out way too much. I'm like, oh Lord, that's
Yeah,
TMI.
like,
I did not want that in my brain, but I'm equipped with the skills to help that person.
yeah, and I think that's our job description is that we have a, confidentiality kind of proposal with the clients. And I think that goes with the job because we need them to get to the point where they need to be in their workout, but that's not going to happen if they're carrying this non-visible 1,000-pound thing on their head while they walk in, like with, like, got this problem at work. Like, okay, you need to get rid of that first, that thing
Right.
on your head.
And it helps so much, and they vent and get it out, and then
Yeah,
next
and then
thing
they're
you know,
good.
they feel good. And it's funny because, I've been trained to identify posture and signals that are like
Yeah.
subconscious signals, but I've been trained doing this so long that it's easy to pick up on
Yeah.
when something's going through, and posture is a big component of
Oh, yeah.
fitness. But I always trick them into doing the stuff that they need to do, and then they have a good time. And I'm sure I can tell, obviously spot on. Dr. Hema is my soul sister because she does the same thing. So I got to be respectful of your time. I want to get to one more question and then we'll wrap things up. Okay. So, with your experience working with high powered female executives, what would you recommend for corporate wellness programs aiming to help women over 50 maintain their physical health and stay pain free while balancing their demanding careers? And I want to stay on the mindset type of thing
Yeah.
because I really think that, like you touched on, it's the root of everything, it's the elephant in the room. And
Yeah.
so I want to hear your insight and tell my audience because they're going to just like be firecrackers going off or
Yeah.
light bulbs going off over their heads.
Well, I
Let's
think
go.
by now everybody knows that I like the formula of keeping it simple. There's no stupid here. There's just a simple.
I love it.
Keep it simple because in life, things are complicated enough. So here's what and I think you would probably do the same, is that we touched upon it. Have prompts. Okay, so how are you going to have a prompt? So women over 50 we've acknowledged all the stuff. They got into the C-suite. We need them to take care of themselves, and they need to be proactive on getting that corporate wellness agenda, at least at some levels, at least some rubber hitting the road. If you can get, 80% of your staff signed on to some kind of a self-awareness thing, you're good. So how would we do that? Here's one thing you could do. People like things. So I would make an online kind of a check-in, like check mark. So they would have 3 exercises to do every morning before they came to work. One is a gratefulness checklist. So they would cite 3 things they are grateful for. And so this would come up when they come into work and then they put their screen on. It's just for them. And it would be in their own little locked area. And then the second thing they promptly answer is, how would they determine that their day at work today was amazing? And it could be so simple as, I got up every hour and stretched. Check. That would make today amazing. 2, did I have a little bit of water? And just keep it simple and say, did I finish my water after 8 hours of work? Check. Did I communicate with someone at work? Just one person. Just start that communication with someone at work. Check. Now, these are just suggestions, but they need to fill in the blanks. What 3 things, if you did today, would make today amazing would be the prompt. And they could just write, it's just for them to say, I see what self-analysis, what things make me happy. And that self-awareness goes a lot away. It's like checking under the hood of your car. If there's a noise, you just say, oh, just ignore that. No, you gotta look underneath. So you gotta see what's going on. If there are rumbles at work, you gotta know what makes you and you productive. And the last thing is kind of be more self-aware by just answering some prompts. I am. And then fill in 3 things like, I am cheerful. And that way they would say, okay, when are times when I'm not cheerful? And they would be more aware, self-aware feedback during the day. Okay, talking to this, working on this project, seeing this thing triggers me. Okay. Well, those are things I need to address at my next meeting with my supervisor. These are triggers that I find, and I just want to communicate that to you. I'm proactive and we can figure something else, but you want to keep those things away from me because they make me less productive. This kind of self-awareness practice is going to make your day so much better. If you see red flags at work and that makes you not happy, write it down in your 3 amazing things. What are 3? Okay, if that thing doesn't happen, this will make this day amazing. That's a thing. But I'll tell you, and you know this, Kathie, Job number one is awareness. So if you follow, and I've timed this practice with my other clients, this whole practice, this 3-pronged thing takes 5 minutes. So this self-awareness kind of thing is all you need to just make people aware of the fact that there's a person underneath this hood. We're not just a walking, talking robot. We're magnificent, but we can be more magnificent if we know where the dance is. This is where corporate wellness starts. Talking, awareness, and just making it simple, because the more things you add on is where the resistance comes in, because you just don't want to do one more thing.
Well, wow, Hema, you have dropped some bombs today and just inspired the heck out of me, my day. I look forward to it. I can only imagine what it's like working with you. It must be like extremely pleasant. In closing, I want to talk just a tad about how you and I met, what we do behind the scenes, because Dr. Hema and I have never met in person. So we are a part of a community mastermind, I would call it, inside Social Curator.
Yeah.
And Social Curator is run by Jasmine Starr. And so several years ago, I want to say it was probably 2 years ago,
Yeah.
we had a challenge inside the community, go live for 5 days.
Yeah.
And we partnered up and we said we held each other accountable.
Yeah.
And we have group coaching calls inside. Dr. Hema has gotten on the call with Jasmine. She's gotten on the hot seat. And so I'm like her biggest fan. I follow her on social media. If you want to find how to find her, the links will be in the show notes and description below, because I will have all of her links, as well as I'll have that in the introduction to this episode. I want to touch on the importance of accountability, having friends that do the same thing that you do to help you stay strong. And a mastermind is very beneficial. I'm part of several of them. Dr. Hema and I have known each other for several years. We're both personal trainers. And also, she's an aerospace engineer. So, in closing, I want her to touch on the aerospace engineering and maybe our connection as well.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to talk about our connection, because as you point out, we had this amazing go live on IG challenge for 5 days. And I was doing it at random. Kathie was doing it at random, and we were supposed to go sequentially for 5 days. And also, part of that challenge, unsaid part, I think, was to support the other people who, went out of their comfort zone and did it consecutively for those 5 days each day. And Kathie and I would go on and talk about fitness stuff. And it's almost like, did I read your script or did you read mine? Like, we were saying the same things, like, do this, keep it simple. We're all the same things. And here's a simple thing you can do for blah, blah, blah. And it was almost like, wait a second, this person and I need to get. So we got together through the fact that we were watching each other's lives going, I was going to do the same thing. Like, what is this? I'm talking to a mirror in the wall. So that's how we got together. And then we were talking about fitness strategies and business strategies. And Kathie had this corporate wellness thing going on. We were discussing about that. So this is how we got together, because we had the same mindset on the fitness world, fitness solutions, the whole aging. I'm going to say in air quotes, because some of my women could kick butt for some of them. I would never know they were aging. So, including you and moi. So there's that. But, I'm just saying, that's how the vernacular. But that clientele is something we both share, and our attitudes toward that, as we can see, we're both laughing at the whole aging, like, yeah, right. Seriously. So that viewpoint is how we got together in this whole wellness strategy. And the fact that, all our advice is very practical. And a lot of people both have had successes and long careers as personal trainers. Now, as I said, earlier, I approached it from the engineering viewpoint, which was why my company was a little different. And maybe some of the talk I'm doing here today, it sounds a little different from the regular personal training world. But that's because I'm approaching it from the engineering standpoint. You have a problem to solve, you have a system, and then you solve it from the system point of view. It's very logical. It's also feedback oriented, meaning you look at the results, you correct, you fix it again, you find something else to tweak, and on it goes. And each person is unique in that, but we have some general commonality. So that's my engineering viewpoint talking. And that's how I've been working in the fitness world for 20 years plus. I have a book which talks about some of this stuff. If people want to do these simple exercises on Amazon, it's available. And the other thing is that my engineering background, I've been doing that for a lot longer, but that gives you the mindset of how I approach things. So it's not very parochial. It's not from, the mindset of thou shalt or thou shalt not. It's more like, hey, you're an individual. What do you need? Here's an engineering viewpoint about, solving a fitness solution. People go on threads a lot and say, I got to lose weight. And my first question to them is, why? What's your problem? Has a doctor told you that? You're trying to, what are you trying to accomplish? So that's the question I encourage everyone to ask. If you think something, see Kathie or me first, because it may be the outside world telling you, not you telling you. And you may be nothing wrong with you. You may be perfect as you are, fitness wise, So don't go down a rabbit hole unless you have to. See us first, free discovery call, take advantage of this whole body of knowledge here.
Wow, I love it. And my favorite thing today that you said was the KISS acronym, which I say keep it simple, silly.
Yeah.
So I don't like the stupid either because
No one's
nobody's
stupid.
Nobody's stupid. Oh my God, you and me, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Maybe smarty is better.
We are
Keep
sisters.
simple, smarty.
Yeah, keep it simple, smarty. But in whole, if you look at today's episode, where there's tons of gold in today's episode. But if you watch it again, or if you listen to it again, just remember everything she said today was very, very simple and super easy to do and super easy to implement. And if you just try what she said, the 3-prong,
Mhm.
keeping it simple.
Yeah.
And you will find that will help you. Neuroscience proves what she said. It actually proves it. So I dare you to try it for a good month. Just try it every single day and then come back to us and tell us
Yeah.
what your results are, because you will be thanking us later.
Sure.
I
There's
mean,
a challenge.
because I think it helps so
Oh,
much,
yeah.
especially when it comes to stress and burnout, which I've experienced multiple times in my life.
Yeah.
And I love today's episode. In fact, I can't wait to edit it because it's just so full of gold, and I'm going, oh, I forgot she said that. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. So
Thank
there'll be
you.
lots of clips we'll be putting on social media as well. And we will share this in Social Curator so that everybody else can see how Social Curator does help you a whole
Yeah.
whole.
It brought us together, and I'm so grateful for everything Social Creator does, and Jasmine Star and yourself, Kathie. I can't thank you enough for walking the talk with me on this journey and just inviting me into your world of podcasting and broadcasting some of these amazing ideas. So thank you also from myself, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. All right. All right, y'all. That's our episode for today. I always end it like this. Until I see you next time, peace out and namaste. Celebrate.